Okay, shalom, Shabbat shalom, everyone. We're in Deuteronomy, doing our Torah portion, a portion of the Torah reading. Deuteronomy 25, verse 11. And it reads, "When men strive against each other, and the wife of one draws near to deliver her husband out of the hand of him who strikes him, and puts out her hand, and grabs him by the private parts, then you shall cut off her hand. Not only that, but you shall have no pity on her." Again, the question is, why would Yahuwah create a commandment like this? What is the point? This is my assumption based on other scriptures we've been reading so far, reading the Torah. Yahuwah is very serious about procreation. Yahuwah is very serious about procreation. Understand, that is a reflection of the Elohim that created us and said, "Be fruitful and multiply." And he is a Elohim, he's a God of covenant, marriage, covenant, and lineages. And we just read before this passage on the other video, Deuteronomy chapter 5, where a man is to take, was it this chapter that talked about it? Yes, verse 7. So if a brother is dwelling with another brother, and the husband who has a brother, if that husband dies, that brother who is next in kin is supposed to marry or take on his wife, his widowed wife, and take on the legacy or continue the legacy or have a child, through that lineage, if they never had a chance to have a child. And if the man doesn't do it, if he says, I don't want to do it for whatever reason, because he can choose not to, it's actually a disgraceful thing in Israel. So what does this say about Yahuwah? This says that Yahuwah is very serious about procreation, about bloodlines, and about covenant. He's very, very serious about this. So when a woman grabs, even if they're in an altercation, two guys are fighting and having an altercation, if she has the audacity to grab the very thing that a man uses to procreate, that's a violation. So I hope that makes sense. Milo, and then Melissa.
I agree, and the fact that I shouldn't be touching another man's stuff. That's not my husband. So that's true. That's a very intimate place. I completely agree. I think that's great. The first thought that came to my mind. But as I'm thinking, I'm like, I shouldn't be putting my hand upon a man in that manner or any manner, but definitely not that.
All right, Melissa, you're up.
So I've read this before, but I have never seen it before. So this is fascinating to me because the first thing that comes to my mind is that one, her husband is her protector, her rescuer, and her head. So it almost seems as though she is in some way usurping her husband's authority and the father's authority. Because this man attacking her husband could be Yah's judgment on him. And she needs to stay out of it and let him handle the situation. So it almost seems like, the helicopter wife, yeah. So, yeah, enough said.
Interesting perspective. I didn't see that. I wasn't looking at it that way. Ezzy.
Yeah, I was the same point of view, Melissa, where it appears that the wife is circumventing her husband, and we'll see later in those scriptures, I think there's a matter of disagreement and agreement between a husband and a wife. If there's a disagreement and then the wife comes and circumvents her husband or tries to, take authority over something that, is a man's place, you're now stepping outside of your role as the wife, which is what we see in the fall. The man is commanded and then the wife Hawa has to follow suit with that, whereas she is circumventing her head and falls victim to the temptation of the serpent. So I can see both points of view, but I think later in scripture, we'll see that there needs to be some type of agreement between the husband and the wife. Otherwise, the wife will bring shame. That word for genitals also means secrets. So, exposing the secrets of your husband, or like we like to say, pillow talk, will bring shame to your family. So.
Thank you, Ezzy. More hands. Diana, go ahead.
I just agree with you, and I was just looking at Jeremiah 31:27, when Yahuwah says, the day is coming, declares Yahuwah, when I will plant the kingdoms of Israel and Judah with the offspring of people and of animals. So I think that it's saying that you don't know who this man is, and if every woman attacked the man that's attacking her husband, how many men would be hurt by the fact that they can no longer produce? What is she doing with her hand? Is she cutting it off? Is she ruining his ability to reproduce? So I think that it's clearly saying that that's not her right to harm this man in that way.
Mm-hmm. So did you say you disagree or agree? Because it sounds like you agree.
Agree.
Oh, okay. I thought you said I disagree, and then you went to scripture. I was like, oh, sounds like you agree.
No, I said I agree with you.
Praise Yah, praise Yah. Yeah. No, I was just checking. That's all.
Okay.
I don't mind if people disagree with me. Just get ready to make sure you back up what your disagreement, because I'm gonna come hard.
Absolutely.
But very good. No.
Yeah.
No, but that's good. That's good. Jeremiah 31. What verses was that? 31? 27. I was at 37. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Says Yahuwah that I will sow the house of Israel and the house of Yehudah with the seed of man and with the seed of animal. Interesting. I don't know if I understand that right now.
Well, I think it sounds like he's populating. So if you destroy the man,
that's me.
If you destroy the man's ability to reproduce, how is he going to plant the kingdoms and grow the kingdoms with the offspring? Because this man's maybe his ability to reproduce is destroyed. I'm not sure.
All right, thank you for sharing that. I have to look into this. This is something I'll have to look deeper into.
Okay.
I can't wait till we do Jeremiah. That's a great book. All right, let's see. Kieran.
You pretty much covered what I was going to say, brother, but I was just going to bring the scripture to it. It's Genesis 1:28. And Yahuwah baruch them, and Yahuwah said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, brother. All right, let's keep going. So again, her hand is to be cut off, and no one should have pity on her. Wow, that's heavy. Verse 13, Deuteronomy 25:13, it says, you shall have in your bag diverse weights. Oh, my bad. You shall not have in your bag diverse weights, one heavy and one light. You shall not have in your house diverse measures, one large and one small. You shall have a perfect and just weight. You shall have a perfect and just measure, that your days may be long in the land which Yahuwah your Elohim gives you. Let's see. For all who do such things, all who do unrighteously, are an abomination to Yahuwah your Elohim. All right, before I continue, let's chew on this. What is this talking about? What in the world? You shall not have in your bag diverse weights. If I'm reading this plainly and simply, the way I think I'm reading it, it's if you have a bag and you're traveling and you have weights in there, you have to have like a 5-pounder and a 5-pounder in one bag. You can't have a 5-pounder and a 10-pounder in a bag. That's kind of what I'm hearing. Let me know if you guys are hearing something differently, or if this is some kind of idiom or something. Let me know, because yeah, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hands. Oh my goodness, I don't even know who to go first to. I'll go Rod, brother Rod. Oh, you unmuted yourself already.
Shalom. Yeah, this has to do with a merchant cheating as he's selling. Amos 8:5 says, saying, when will the moon be gone, that we may sell corn, and the Sabbath, that we may set forth wheat, making the ephah small and the shekel great, and falsifying the balances by deceit. So that's what this passage is. In light of that passage, right? If we reread 11, now I'm not saying they connect, but it could be possibly too that the wife is creating a cheat in the dispute with the other brother when she grabs her husband's genitals as well, because this is going into cheating. Could be.
Interesting. Well, thank you for that first part. So it sounds like there is some kind of connection, some kind of idiom, some kind of, what do you call it? An expression, a type of expression in Hebrew regarding unjust,
weights, scales.
Yeah, there's another word, weights and scales. Unjust buying and selling. Yeah? Okay. Ezzy, go ahead. I'm trying to make it American language because nobody walks around talking about unjust weights and measures. Like, I don't know what that's about.
That's funny. Yeah, so that goes back to the point I was making that I think 11 is related to this. I'm going to go to 1 Corinthians 7:4-5. So in 1 Corinthians 7:4-5, it says, the wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. And likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. And then it goes on to say, do not deprive one another except with agreement for a time to give yourselves to fasting and prayer and come together again so that Satan does not try you because of your lack of self-control. For a woman to rush out and just grab someone by the genitals for the purpose of rescuing him because there is, what I see is maybe disagreement amongst either him going out to battle or whatever is going on. Like I said, she's circumventing her husband. But it also, when you bring in the aspect of buying and selling.
We're missing it, Ezzy. You got muted for some reason, and I can't unmute you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your last point was in the midst of buying and selling, and then it got muted.
Yeah, the story, if you can help me, because I can't remember which story it is, but when there was a husband and a wife, I think there was a king and a queen, and they were bartering with a prophet, and the prophet was saying, why do you lie to me about the cost of this thing? I can't remember what it was, but there was a disagreement between the two. The husband was, trying to increase the price on something that didn't cost as much, and the wife was basically trying to keep up this lie with him. So I think there's this aspect of, having agreement within your household, or having a disagreement in your household and then dealing, with your brother or with one another unrighteously because of that disagreement. So that's what I think it's referring to.
Interesting. Would you happen to be thinking of Ananias and Sapphira in the book of Acts that didn't give the amount that they were supposed to, and they both died? Yeah, that's the New Testament, y'all, by the way. That's after the resurrection of Yahusha, too. Yeah, I'm not seeing that this is connected with the previous verse. I'll share why later, but I'm gonna let more people get in and talk. Thank you for sharing these points, Milo, and then I'll go to more mics.
Mm-hmm. And I definitely agree with Brother Rod in regards to not an actual idiom. It is something concrete in the sense of, from Leviticus 19:36, it says like righteous balances, just weights, a just ephah, and a just hin shall you have. I am Yahuwah your Elohim, which brought you out of the land of Mizraim. Therefore shall you observe all my statutes and all my commandments and do them. I am Yahuwah. So if we were to liken it to an example today, let's say you go to a farmer's market and they usually weigh your fruit. Let's say they tip the balance in it. So when you put something that's light and it's heavier, so now they're overcharging you. That's unrighteous to do.
Bingo. Light bulb just went on.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
High five. That was good. I like that explanation. Thank you.
I got you.
All right, Brother Brian.
Yeah, I was thinking about in Matthew 21:13, Yahushua's in the temple, and he's talking about he's very upset that in the outer court he said that this is my father's house, the house of prayer, where you made it a den of thieves. And what was going on there too, because people people was coming from all over the world to go into Jerusalem for the feast and all that, and you had to convert your money to the shekel of the temple at that time. And so I think what was going on was they were probably cheating them that way, and also cheating them with the balances and all that sort of stuff. Because when you go over, like if you ever go to another country, you gotta convert your money, so they can cheat you and not give you your just weight for your money when you convert your money in a foreign land. And I think that was what was going on there too.
Excellent connection. Thank you, Brian. Beautiful. I'm gonna go to Chris. Chris, you put your hand down? Yes? All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
Shalom?
Yes, shalom, brother. Go ahead, Chris. You're on.
You're live on the air.
You have probably a couple thousand viewers watching right now. So,
So when I'm reading Torah, I do seek the practical applications of what's being said. I think that's important for me to anchor myself and not over, spiritualize. Sometimes what I have a tendency to do is over spiritualize things that I read because I'm not relating to the day and time in which the instructions were given. So I have to put myself back contextually and historically into what was being said. And I could just think, what woman, I know my wife, if she saw me in a struggle with a man, she's not going to stand by and let me get beat up. That's just not what a wife going to do. I mean, any woman sees her husband in trouble is going to go to his rescue. However, what I see here in that verse 11, in reference to a woman taking a man by the genitals, is she knows his weak spots. She knows that can cripple a man. I mean, if a woman's being attacked by a man, I think most women know instinctively, go for the genitals, go to the area that will weaken him. But in this particular situation, we're talking about Israelite men. And like you were saying, Brother D, Yah does highly regard and has a high priority on the sacredness of producing life. And a woman going to the aid of her husband attacks the weakness of a man, an Israelite man, with the intent to, injure him where he cannot produce, is a offense of a high degree because of Yah's view and his position on the sacredness of life. And I also see this speaking to our day and time with the abortion that's going on in all around the world. There's just no respect for the fear and sacredness of life. So I also see that, just taking it contextually to the 21st century, how we just, when I say we, today's society just aborts babies and just at an alarming rate with no fear or reverence for the sacredness of it. So that's just what I wanted to say.
I think that was well said. Excellent. Beautifully. I actually think that passage, that portion about not grabbing the genitals of, the other man, is actually connected with the previous point about continuing the lineage of your dead brother. I think that's connected, and there is a high regard. I'm going to finish what you were saying. You were like right there, and I was like, I'm not going to lie, Yahuwah has a higher priority on the physical Israelites. It's like spitting in the face of Yahuwah with the covenant he made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay? So when an Israelite woman tries to destroy what procreates through an Israelite man, it's like she's spitting in the face at a covenant that Yahuwah made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I thought that's where you were going to go. I was like, woohoo! But yeah, that's what I was seeing. Yes, he cares about life in general, but he has a special covenant, a physical lineage, bloodline covenant with the house of Israel. That can't be denied. We can't read scripture and deny that. But other than that, very good point. I also, this is very important, guys. I want you to hear what Chris had to say. This is really important. Sometimes we have to contextually put ourselves in that time frame because we're westernized, United States of American or Holland, UK, wherever you're from. We're 2019, 2018, whatever calendar you go by. I don't care. Okay, but we're living in this age, and we have a tendency to not be able to relate with that. So, it's okay to go spiritualize and spiritualize things. That's cool, but we have to get the physical application as well because there is a physical application there. So thank you for that point as well, Chris. Melissa? And then Diana.
Said that they would carry these weights in their bags. And so the reason why he's saying not to carry differing weights is because if you had a 5-pound weight, every 5-pound weight should weigh 5 pounds. So as you're going about doing business, if you're carrying like a 4.8 weight in your bag, and then you're selling, someone wants to buy like 5 pounds of goods for you, that person would take that 4.8 weight and put it on the scale and then weigh out whatever the goods were for it to balance, and then it would be inaccurate. They would shortchange that person. So what he was saying is that they needed to have all their weights exactly the same and not to be deceitful or dishonest.
Absolutely. Thank you. Diana.
There's an echo. With Melissa, Proverbs 11:1 says, "A false balance is an abomination to Yahuwah, but a just weight is his delight." And it also, I think it has to do with stealing. I mean, if you're going to mix your weights, like Mila was saying, and you're putting your finger on it or taking it off, it's stealing. It's part of the 10 Commandments. And Corinthians 6:10 says, "Neither thieves, nor greedy, nor drunkards, nor slanderers, nor swindlers will inherit the kingdom of Yahuwah." So I think that it all has to do with stealing and the fact that you're trying to get over on someone. So practical, whether you're giving someone change and you're supposed to give them a 5 and you give them a 1, you're still stealing. So I can see it as nowadays it's the same thing, being honest.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Nailed it. Derailed and Chris.
I think it.
Sorry.
It's all right. I think it's the same what Diana was saying about being honest towards your fellow man. Like, I think Yahuwah really wants us to be all honest with each other, our brothers and sisters. I had a reference, Amos chapter 8, verse 4, and I'll read it. "Hear this, you who are swallowing up the needy to do away with the poor of the land, saying, when does the new moon pass so that we sell grain, and the Shabbat so that we trade our wheat, to make the ephah small and the shekel large, and to falsify the scales by deceit, to buy the poor for silver and the needy for a pair of sandals, and sell the chaff of the wheat. Yahuwah has sworn by the excellency of Jacob, I shall never forget any of their works. Shall the land not tremble for this, and everyone mourn who dwells in it, and all of it shall swell like the river, heave and subside like the river of Mitzrayim. And it shall be in that day, declares Master Yahuwah, that I shall cause the sun to go down at noon, and shall darken the earth on a day of brightness." Anyways, I think it's, he looks down upon that, like us trying to cheat each other and be dishonest. He does not like that, And that's what I got out of that, and I agree with everybody else with that.
Thank you, Brother Derail. And Chris?
Yeah, I was just thinking about a practical example. When I go into the grocery stores now and buy a bag of chips, the bag is bigger, but it's still not the same amount that they put in there. And then they false advertise saying 20% more. But I know they're cheating us with those new bags. Bigger bags, less weights, less amount what you purchase. It's just a very practical example. I know it's not going to enrich anybody, but I just see that. I see it in grocery stores, the way they're advertising products now. I don't think that they're being completely honest with the measures and the weights, and that's why they do the gimmicks with the advertising 20% more and all that other stuff.
Yep, there goes the world, and something we shouldn't follow after. definitely why this makes Yahuwah's word. It should make his word stand up and be beautiful. You know, just like Shaul said in Romans, the law is holy, righteous, and good. You know, sometimes the more you see wickedness and you see the commandment Yahuwah gives that's against that, it just makes it stand out. Like, yeah, this is why I believe in this book. Very good. So I'm going to bring my point real quick. I believe that verses 13, Deuteronomy 25, verse 13 to 16 is actually connected. And it ends with this. Verse 16 says, "For all who do such things, all who do unrighteously are an abomination to Yahuwah of Elohim." And there's a cross-reference to this. Proverbs, chapter 11, verse 1, the sister read it. It says, "A false balance is an abomination to Yahuwah," guys. There's not a lot of things in scriptures that are an abomination. Eating swine, homosexuality, causing dissension between the brothers. And here's another one. You know, this is high on the list. Okay, this is something that can, again, when you're dealing with different sins, it's going to have different repercussions, right? You see in the previous verse, a woman gets her hand cut off for, you know, for doing what she did. You know, but here, this is called an abomination. I don't know if that other passage has a cross-reference for it being an abomination for a woman to grab the genitals of another man, unless you guys can find it. This is why I don't believe it's actually really connected to that. I think that story, the whole, you know, grabbing the man's genitals is connected with the previous point that's about continuing the legacy of your bloodline, you know, of your dead brother, you know. So this would be a different topic for me.
Can I go in with that?
Go ahead, yep.
Because, well, I would say Deuteronomy 25:16, the second part of it, it says, "For all that do such things," which I would agree would be the ones that are just spoken of, "and all that do unrighteously are an abomination." So I guess if we kind of expand it to what is considered unrighteous before Yahuwah, is it unrighteous to not allow someone to procreate? Is it unrighteous to... I mean, there's so much in that sense, but you know.
Well, the reason I don't like because what you're doing now is you're making everything an abomination. Because literally, if I don't any Torah, I don't obey, is an abomination. I don't really see scriptures for that. I see that there are things that Yahuwah hates and certain things that are an abomination to him, and then he goes off the list.
A level of it.
Yeah, so I think abomination would be a higher level of sin. Just like Yahusha talks about, there's weightier matters of the Torah. You know, there's more important commandments. There's also got to be the opposite of that, the vice versa of that is there's got to be more important, more weightier sins that are worse than others. Matthew 23 is a good example of that. And I think in Matthew 23, it actually probably talks about this concept of unjust weights and measures. Let me check it out real quick. So Matthew 23, he goes on and says to observe the Torah without hypocrisy in verses 1-3. Then he says that the religious leaders, the scribes, put on heavy burdens on men, and they don't even care to help them. Let's see. They're prideful, like to be called rabbi. Hypocrites. Hypocrites, yeah, I'll pause it for the sake of time. All right, real quick, just verse 23, Matthew 23:23. Yahusha says, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you tithe mint, dill, and cumin, and have left undone the weightier matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faith. But you ought to have done these and not have left the others undone." Again, he starts off Matthew 23 saying, obey the Torah. And then he breaks down how in the Torah there are weightier matters and there are lighter matters. And he's saying obey them all. So even out of Yahusha's mouth, he's saying to obey all the Torah. But one of them is justice. And I think justice falls in line with the equal weights, equal measures, scales, not robbing people. Brian brought up an excellent passage. Yahusha flipping tables, making a whip by his own hand because they've made Yahuwah's house a den of thieves. And it was supposed to be meant to be a house of prayer for all nations. Diana?
Oops. The one I was just saying, I agree with you because Proverbs 11:1, I don't know if you had heard it. It says a false balance is an abomination to Yahuwah.
Yep.
But the day is his delight. So that's very clear. You're right. It's an abomination.
Absolutely. Thank you. Darlene. We can't hear you, Darlene. You got to unmute yourself. No? How about now? Should be seeing a message pop up saying, there you go.
There we go. Can you hear me today?
Yep.
Okay.
Just get a little closer. That'll be great if you get closer.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
It's actually really low and it's actually a little muffled.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah. There we go. Go ahead.
Okay. I was just given the verse in Proverbs 12:22, where it says a lie is abomination, and when they're doing unjust weights and measures, they're just lying about the fact of what they're doing. So.
Excellent. Yep. Thank you so much. You said Proverbs 12, right? 12:22. Yep. Thank you so much. JP. Oh. Chris?
I just want to ask real quick, can someone define abomination?
Ask that question again.
Can someone define the word or the term abominations just so I can have a reference?
Disgust.
All right. Let's do JP and then I'll do a definition of that.
Thank you.
JP, you're up.
Did we already speak about this? I mean, because judging unrighteously. I don't know if did anybody speak about that already, Brother D? Before I say anything.
Judging unrighteously?
Yes.
No, we were on the topic of, equal weights, equal measures, and lying.
Right. Okay. I found a verse right here in Deuteronomy, because when you read it and everybody was reading, I was thinking about unrighteous judgment, about judging unrighteously. And so I looked and I found a verse in Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 16, that says, "And I charge your judges at the time, saying, hear the causes between your brethren, and judge righteously between every man and his brother, and the stranger that is with him. And you shall not respect persons in judgment, but you shall hear the small as well as the great. You shall be not afraid of the face of the man, for the judgment is Elohim's, and the cause that is too hard for you, bring it unto me, and I will hear it." But I felt like, as we were reading that between 13 and 16 of chapter 25 of Deuteronomy, I felt like there was something in me that was saying it was like an unrighteous judgment, like when you judge your brothers unrighteously and you're not evenly judging a matter. So, I mean, I know it's maybe a little bit deeper or a little bit out there, but it just felt like as I was looking at, I don't know, I just thought like in the sense of, unbalanced. When you judge your brothers or you're hearing a matter and you're unbalancing, you're favoring one over another because maybe he's your brother in the faith or maybe he's your brother in the walk and this one's not. And so like kind of like I'm thinking about what you guys are talking about, the scales and the markets, and I'm putting all that together as an unrighteous judgment type of effect. So that was my thought.
Yeah, that goes in line with the word justice again. And I think it's no accident that the world has chosen a symbol of scales to represent justice. So that's not just in money, but yeah, in rightfully judging who's wrong and who's right in a certain matter and not showing favoritism. So it's pretty good. All right, abomination. So I'm going to go with a concordance definition. H8441, H8441. Probably to'abah, and it means a disgusting thing. There's a lot of definitions here. Ritual sense, unclean food, idols, mixed marriages, an ethical sense, wickedness, disgusting, something disgusting that is an abhorrence, abhorrent. So there's a level of like, something is wrong. Yes, it's wrong, but it's another level to say it's completely disgusting to someone. There's a difference between eating, having a meal and saying something doesn't taste good, right? Like, yeah, that could use a little bit more flavor, versus that makes me want to vomit. So abomination would take it to that level in Yahuwah's nostrils and in his heart, that it's completely disgusting, and we should share those feelings with him, especially if we're praying. I want to feel how you feel, Yahuwah. Oh, teach me. I want to know your heart. What do you love? I want to love what you love, and I want to hate what you hate. Well, then go to the scriptures where everything it says is an abomination to Yahuwah. That includes eating pork and all these other categories that are an abomination to Yahuwah. It makes Yahuwah want to vomit. It's absolutely disgusting to him. Brother Chris? That was a good question, by the way, and I think that's good for all of us.
I was actually lifting my hands in worship. Not really question, but I will say, I'll just comment on what you just said is, that's what helps me understand. Your comments just help me understand that I do need to understand what y'all hate so that I too may hate those things. Like you said, eating pork, that's an abomination. And this is from Yah's perspective, not ours. So when he says an abomination, he's saying this is what I truly hate, is detestable to me. And so if he hates it and he's the same yesterday, today, and forever, he changes not, then that means he still hates unclean foods today. He hates unjust balances and weights. He still hates these things. They're detestable to him.
Amen. And I would just take it and say, if you find yourself, these scriptures are in front of your face or given to you or presented to you, okay, and you don't share the same feelings, I challenge you to pray to Yahuwah and ask him, Father, I want you to let me feel the severity of what this makes you, how this makes you feel. I want this to be an abomination to me. I challenge you to do that. You have other people who call themselves teachers that will actually tell you, some things that were an abomination are not an abomination anymore. And if you even have a lick of conviction about this thing, you may burn in hell for eternity. That in and of itself sounds abominable. But I'm going to do the opposite of that. And I'm actually going to challenge people to pray intimately in your prayer closet. When you're confronted with these scriptures and these things that says an abomination to Yahuwah, if you're not feeling the same way, say, Yahuwah, I want to feel what you feel on this matter. Why don't I feel this way? Help me. Open my eyes. Help me in my unbelief, I want you to go there with it. Anyway, I hope you find that encouraging and challenging. Katriel and then Milo.
Shalom, thank you. I was gonna reference.
We got an echo potentially from you and someone else that's in your home that has the same thing.
Is the echo still there?
Nope, we're good now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I was gonna reference Matthew chapter 21, verses 12 and 13. It says, and Yahusha went into the set apart place of Elohim and drove out all those buying and selling in the set apart place and overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who had sold doves. And he said to them, it has been written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of robbers. And the scripture that he was referencing was Jeremiah 7:11, where it says, you have made my house into a house of robbers. And that was how serious Yahuwah was about having a just balance and a just weight. They were exactly against the people. So Yahuwah overturned all the tables.
Yep. Brother Brian brought that passage up. Thank you again for the reassurance, Sister Katriel. Mila, real quick, then we're going to move on.
I wanted to read regarding the abomination. One example, Leviticus 18 verses 26 to 28, and it goes in line with spewing out. It says, "You shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments." This is Yahuwah. "And shall not commit any of these abominations." And he had previously listed bestiality, sacrificing to Molech, things of that sort of nature. You went along with abortion, things like that. "And shall not commit any of these abominations, neither any of your own nation, nor any stranger that sojourns among you. For all these abominations have the men of the land done, which were before you, and the land is defiled, that the land spew not you out also, when you defile it, as it is spewed out the nations that were before you." You know, he defines abomination because he's comparing his people to what the nations prior have done. You know, when it's not just Yahuwah hating, it's all of his creation literally hating. He says the land is defiled and spews you out. It's almost like a reaction, saying because you have done this bloodshed, or they've killed, they sacrificed to Molech, they were in idolatry. It wasn't because Israel at the beginning was necessarily the apple of his eye before Israel was even created. It was because of the abominations of these sins from these nations have racked up so much. It's defiling. It is. Think in the sense of, okay, let's look at his tabernacle real quick, for example. If you were unclean, you couldn't even come into his tabernacle. And that's the one place you would want to be. If anything, if you really love Yahuwah, you want to be able to go before him. You want to be able to sacrifice, give your offering to him, give your praise, give your worship. And he says no. And just think of that same way as an abomination is unclean and defiling, that you can't come before him. And the land in itself spews people out. How much more him himself? So.
Praise Yah. Man, land vomits you out. It's another way of saying that. Almost what Yahuwah would do if we're lukewarm, right? All right. Deuteronomy. What? Oh, Kepha and Rick. Okay. Kepha and Rick. Go ahead. Or Karen.
Yes. Hi. I'm not sure if this was shared. Hello. Proverbs 6. 16 through 19. I'm sorry. It says, "These 6 things the Lord hates. Yes, 7 are an abomination to him: a proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that are swift in running to evil, a false witness who speaks lies, and one who sows discord among brethren."
Praise Yah. Yeah, I didn't quote the chapter and verse, so I'm glad you found it for me. I did mention it, but I didn't go to it. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Praise Yah, Brother Rick.
Yeah, my question to you: you mentioned that eating swine is an abomination. What scriptures point that out? Just for my satisfaction, because I've not ever heard that is considered an abomination.
Isaiah 60. Sorry.
All right, I'll pause it. All right, one passage is Isaiah 66 verse 17. Brother Kepha and Karen found it for us. It says, "Those who sanctify themselves and purify themselves to go to the gardens behind one in the middle, eating pig's meat," or swine's flesh, "abominable things, and the mouse, they shall come to an end together," says Yahuwah. This is talking about the end times. That's one passage.
The translations are saying and the. So I'm wondering if it's talking about something separate. Because right after and the abominable things or something like that.
Yeah, I don't see the word "and" in the interlinear here. The "and" comes after the abominable things.
So that punctuation or whatever, maybe there's multiple translations that have it that way. I didn't look into the actual interlinear.
Milo?
And Leviticus 11, it lists a whole list of the foods that we can and can't eat. It goes through verse 6 goes through the hair. We can't eat. 7 is the swine that we can't eat. We can't touch their flesh or their carcass. It's unclean. It goes through. Then it still elaborates upon the fish. And verse 11 talks about they shall be an abomination. Now some may say it's just a fish, but I think it's in context with all that's unclean. That they shall be an abomination unto you. Shall not eat of their flesh, but ye shall have their carcasses in abomination. And it continues with the fish, and then talks about the fowls, which are abominations. So I would say 11 of Leviticus would show what foods are abominable.
So anything unclean is abomination?
Food-wise, I would say yes. But if you're unclean of yourself, if you're just talking about uncleanness, no, I wouldn't say that's an abomination. Like women and her.
Hold
on, we gotta echo.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at what foods are considered abomination. Because I always seen that separation. I didn't realize that if he says they're unclean, that he considers them also an abomination, because now that takes us to another level of discussion with people that say, well, it's okay. Well, if he says an abomination, that takes us to, well, we can't even touch it because it's an abomination to him. But I've not ever seen it in that way, and that's why I'm trying to clarify, because if it is, I already know I'm not supposed to eat it because it's going to make me sick. But if it's abomination, there's a reason that it's like he said, it's detestable. It's like, ugh, don't touch it to him, which is really what matters to me. If it's an abomination to him, I definitely don't want to touch it. Even though I know it'll make me sick if I eat it. That's what I considered always why he said don't eat it, because it's unclean. But abomination, that's a whole nother level.
Right. All right, we got 3 more hands up. Sandra Gonzalez, I hope that answered the question. If it's still a question, I guess, just take it into prayer. But Sandra, go ahead.
I think there's another one in Isaiah 65:4.
All right, you got it in front of you?
It says, who sit among the graves and spend the night in secret places, who eat flesh of pigs and the broth of unclean meat is in their pups. Yeah, pups.
Yep. Yeah. And that word, let's see.
That one's.
I think that's a different word.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find it. Can't even see it actually. That one's H6292. So it's mostly just unclean.
Unclean, yeah.
It does say foul or refuse, which it's similar. It's like along the same line of disgusting, refuse, yeah. Disgusting to me sounds like a synonym. It might be a synonym in the Hebrew too, Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Okay. All right.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Sandra. How about Nathaniel?
Deuteronomy 14. It starts in 3. It starts off, you shall not eat any abominable thing. There are the beasts which you shall eat, and it lists all of those, and then it goes into the ones that you shouldn't eat. So it's kind of the same one that Sister Milo was saying. It gives a list, but it says at the very beginning, don't eat any abominable thing. So I think when it gets into those ones that you shouldn't eat, he's saying those are an abomination.
All right. And last one, Jeff. Go ahead.
Feel free to stop me if those too far off topic, but the abomination of desolation, the old temple, and now we're the temple. I always connect the abomination of desolation to them when they bring the Zeus into the temple and then sacrifice the pig and use the blood of the pig at the altar. I always think about that now as we're the temple and how we could bring in Zeus into our temple and pig into our temple the same way. So that's how I always connect those two things.
Interesting. So I'm going to move on from there because we're kind of going into a different topic. So I'm going to go back to Deuteronomy 25. Thank you for sharing all that. Homework for everybody to dig into. Deuteronomy 25. Let's go back there. And we just got a few verses
17,
left.
I think. Yeah, 17.
Yeah, verse 17. Verse 17, it says, "Remember what Amalek did to you by the way as you came out of Mitzrayim, out of Egypt. How he met you by the way and struck the rearmost of you, all who were feeble behind you. When you were faint and weary, he didn't fear Elohim. Therefore, it shall be, when Yahuwah your Elohim has given you rest from all your enemies all around, in the land which Yahuwah your Elohim gives you for an inheritance to possess it, that you shall blot out the memory of Amalek from under the sky. You shall not forget." So again, this is Israel. They're in the wilderness. They haven't crossed over yet to the Jordan, going to the promised land, and they are given instruction to blot out the memory of Amalek. So when they go into those lands and anything that's connected with Amalek, any type of connections, they are to completely annihilate it. Go ahead.
Just to cross-reference that story, part of the story is in Exodus 17, chapter 17, starting at verse 8.
Yep. 1 Samuel 15:2 says, Yahuwah of armies says, "I remember what Amalek did to Yisrael, how he set himself against him on the way when he came up out of Egypt." Like, you can tell how much hatred Yahuwah has for this when he keeps bringing it up, even in the future. So something important there. But other than that, Ezzy?
So just to clarify, are you saying that we should, the perspective is not to remember Elimelech?
I want to say, well, it would be contradicting if Yahuwah keeps bringing them up in the future. I think it has more to do with the practices of Amalek being in that land. Like my wife was saying before, the land has spewed out these Gentiles for their abominable works, and Yahuwah doesn't want, likewise the land will spew the Israelites out if they practice these pagan practices. So
okay. Because in the last part of it, he says, "Do not forget." And what I was taking away from that is in Exodus 17, Amalek would prevail when Moshe would put his hands down, but while his hands were up, then Israel would prevail, or Joshua would prevail. And it was to the point that Moses' hands were tired, and Aaron and Hur had to come and help him. And so, I mean, that's really, really deep. And it, sort of how we've come together today, to lift our sister up, so to speak. I think that's what he's saying, not to forget what he actually did there, maybe forget Amalek himself, but not to forget what he did there and how coming together. Because all of this, the whole portion of 25 is really talking about coming together to lift up one another. When your brother dies, you're coming together with his wife to carry on that legacy, and to deal with each other justly and not to lie. So there's this aspect of being there for the other when your fellow brother or sister falls. And I want to go to Ecclesiastes 4:9-12, that I think puts a pretty picture together. Well, I had it, then I lost it. Hold on. It says, "Two are better than one because they have a good reward for their labor. If they fall, one lifts his companion up, but woe to him who is alone when he falls, for he has no one to help him up." So just bringing in that aspect of what actually happened, during that battle with Elimelech.
All right, Ezzy, you bounced back. You found that passage from earlier today. brought it in. That's what's up. All right, Milo, end us with that.
Good stuff. And for them, this was concrete at their time, that this was a command from Yahuwah saying, when you enter into the land, don't forget this, because this is also people that you need to cut off. And we know that Israel many times did not obey those commands, and that's where there's so much mixing and mingling. But the purpose of this was because Amalek came when Yahuwah's people were weak, when they were weakened, and he came and he fought against them. So talking about this just and unjust weights, right? We're talking about, let's see, where does it say? In 18 or 17, 18. Remember what Amalek did unto you by the way when you were come out of Mitzrayim, how he met you by the way and smote you from behind you, which makes sense, military tactic, all while you were feeble behind you, when you were faint and weary, and he didn't fear Elohim. So if we were to relate it into this unjust, it's a man coming against a child. You had whole Yisrael being weakened, they were faint, and obviously that's the advantage. So Amalek thought was to his advantage to be able to come against Yahuwah's people, but he didn't fear Yahuwah to recognize you can't come against my people, especially when they're weakened, because now Yahuwah's going to fight against you. But the command was, when you guys did get into that land and you inherited it, do not forget and go into battle and wipe them out.
There's the why. Because Yahuwah said so.
Because Yahuwah said so. Like as he said. Why? Because Yahuwah said so.
All right. I see more hands up, guys.
Only 3 or 5.
All right. I wanted to go into the other chapter. Okay, D-Ro, go ahead.
Just want to say real quick that even in Numbers 24:20, that, and having seen Amalek, he took up his parable and said, Amalek is the first of the nations, yet his seed shall perish. So that goes along with what you guys are saying about, wiping them out, Amalek.
Very good. Another cross reference. There you go. I think it's memorial to remember. We got a lot of mics unmuted. I don't know how that's happening, guys. You guys are finding a crack through the system. Mute your mics. All right, Kieran, you're up next.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Amalek also was a descendant of Esau through Esau's son Timnah as well. So we all know that the Most High hated Esau.
All right. No, that's righteous, worthy to bring up. Worthy to bring up. Jacob he loved, Esau he hated. That's what Scripture says. What is that? Romans 9, I think. Romans 9 to 10. We had studied that. The men's group. Thank you, Kieran. Appreciate it. All right. Another hand popping up. You guys are killing me here. JP, hurry up.
So mean.
No, I just I don't know if I'm, like we talk about spiritually thinking about this, but it seems like Amalek is like a type of Antichrist or the devil or Satan or whatever, however you want to say it. But when I was reading it, it was interesting when I was seeing it from that type of mindset. That, I don't know, when you read it from that mindset, because when I read Exodus, I went back to the Exodus chapter 17, we see that there's like there's this, I don't know, he was just going against them. He didn't fear Elohim, and I don't know, there's more to look into it. I mean, I don't know if I'm looking into it like that, but it was just interesting because I had that feeling in me that was like, whoa, like, is this like a type, So I don't know, and even in the Deuteronomy verse, it says, it's almost like the people got feeble behind thee when thou was faint and weary, and he feared not. That was verse 18, the end of verse 18. But it was almost like when people got weak, he comes after you. He was coming after them when they were weak. And I was thinking about our brothers and sisters in the faith, and kind of like what you guys are saying, we got to lift up our brothers and sisters, because even when they're weak, we got to put them on our back. Let's go, So, because if not, they're going to get taken down, by this Amalek type, of today. So that was my thought. I don't know. I just want to throw it out there, see if anybody was seeing it that way. So, shalom. Thank you.
Amalek hated Israel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yahuwah will bless those that bless Israel and curse those that curse Israel. And, well, a lot of people should have gotten cursed in Scripture, right? But Amalek is one of these guys that keeps getting mentioned. Like you said, that's intense. You know, but it's definitely something to say, man. To stay away from hating Israel, stay away from speaking any words. Now, who's Israel? That's a whole nother topic. Okay, guys, you know, for those of you, I don't take a side on this. To me, Israel is different colors, different shades, but I don't like the political stuff that goes on with this passage, how the United States politicizes it. Emeka just brought to our attention, you know, that the political state of Israel, for lack of better terms, they have somehow got a law in the United States of America that we can't speak against them. I mean, that's like desperation right there. You know, why can't you just leave that in the hands of Yahuwah? You know what I mean? Somebody must be feeling like their credibility is under attack. And so they got to create laws to control the mind. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. But in general, we shouldn't be speaking against Yahuwah's children. If you don't know who they are, say you don't know who they are. Okay? But never speak against or try to attack Israel's people. Anybody, especially Christians that try to say, oh, we're not supposed to be trying to live like Israelites. Oh, Yahuwah hates them. The synagogue of Satan and all this other stuff. You know, the Old Testament is a failure project. Any of these kinds of words that seems to be anti-Semitic, true anti-Semitic, meaning you hate the scriptural Israelites and you hate anything that has to do with the scriptural children of Israel and the scriptural promise of Israel and the scriptural promise of the kingdom of Israel and the scriptural promise of an Israelite messianic king, then you kind of probably are borderline in dealing with the same spirit Amalek was dealing with. And, you know, don't want to play with that fire. So anyway, that's Deuteronomy 25. We're going to end there. I'm going to end there. Shalom.